What's going on? Hello, hello. How is everybody this evening? Thank you for joining me today. We've got a really interesting and really good show, a really good live. Today we are talking about gene mutations and how they affect our health. And there are many health problems out there today that are often misdiagnosed and when in fact they are gene mutations. So more specifically, let me just ask you. So have you ever experienced anxiety, depression, bipolar, impaired intestinal motility, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, poor sleep patterns, ADD, ADHD, idiopathic high blood pressure, non-alcoholic fatty liver, paresthesias, brain fog, OCD? Are you a perfectionist? Are you an overthinker or a worrier? Can y'all hear me just fine? I think you might can. Do you have estrogen dominance, lupus, Hashimoto's, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis? So if you have said yes to any of these symptoms, they could not be the disease processes at all, but rather a lack of simple raw materials in your body due to certain gene mutations, specifically the gene mutations of MTHFR, COMT, which is COMT, and MTR that have led your body down a wayward path. Hi, ladies. I'm Jamie Shahan. I've been a CRNA since 2004. I started CRNA Swag in 2021 as a way to help female CRNAs prioritize themselves in this hectic world. And in 2023, I had a significant health issue that caused me to reevaluate what it means to prioritize myself. Gift giving is great. CRNA Swag sends gifts out 4 times a year, every 3 months. Something will arrive at your doorstep, and it's actually pretty exciting. And I love the idea of coming home and you've got that box waiting for you on your kitchen island or at your doorstep. But now I understand that I need to prioritize myself in other ways too. So here I am on this journey to try to be healthy, and I've discovered some things that I just can't keep a lid on it. I really have to share with people. So I'm trying to find a new holistic set of standards that I can improve my health by, not just the standard medical community that I've been a part of for 59 years. So I'm taking back my own health in my own hands, and I'm discovering some spectacular things along the way, and I want to share it to anybody that'll listen. So I'm taking you on this journey with me, and all the information that I discover, I'm just going to pass on to you in the form of these lives. And I'll just give you all the links that if I have links, I'll give you suggestions if I have suggestions. But today we're going to be talking about the MTHFR, the COMT, and the MTR gene mutations and how they often mimic regular disease processes. So last week we went down the rabbit hole of water and all that there is to know about water. And I did a video last week. So if you want to get all the little nitty gritty details, and believe me, it's not nearly everything that I discovered. You can't really teach everything. But I touched on the highlights of the things that I thought were pretty important. So in a nutshell, I'll tell you what I've discovered. Excuse me. What I've discovered is that there is only one way to get out 100% of all bacteria, viruses, bulk, dirt, lead, fluoride. There's only one way to get rid of all of that, and that is through the distillation process. So if you buy distilled water, that is the only way that you are going to be sure that there's nothing in your water. However, it's in plastic jugs. So plastic, microplastics are leaching into that water. So there are home distillation products that you can buy that sit on your countertop. They're about $300. And then on top of that clean water, what I've discovered is that and I am soon going to be buying this, is the hydrogen water system. So hydrogen water made from distilled water, in my research, is what I have discovered is the best water to be drinking. And so if you want more information, just check back with that last video that I did last Sunday. But this week, we're talking about gene mutations, MTHFR, COMT, and MTR. So what is MTHFR? MTHFR is methylene tetrahydroxyfolate reductase. That's a mouthful, I know. And this gene impairs the ability of the human body to convert folic acid and some of its derivatives into the usable form called methylfolate through the process of methylation. MTHFR is one of the most common gene mutations in the world, and it is estimated that 44% of the population has this MTHFR gene mutation. Did you know that? I had no idea. No idea. So you can just figure that out. It's like, 199 billion people have this gene mutation. Who'd have thunk it? So you can get it from one parent or you can get it from two parents. If you get it from both, then you certainly need to be taking specific kinds of supplements to combat this mutation. And I would guess that most of us don't know it, that you have it or not. And I certainly don't know if I have it or not. So first of all, what is methylation? Methylation is the transformation of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, et cetera, into usable forms in your body. So you take in food, you take in drink, you take in supplements, the body metabolizes it, methylates it, gets it in a usable form that the body recognizes so that it can do its function. So methylation occurs in the human body about 300 billion with a B times per day, and is possibly one of the most overlooked things in modern medicine. Methylation is also called one carbon metabolism, which is one carbon and three hydrogens. Adding or deleting a one carbon metabolism from a molecule, you're actually changing the entire structure and function of that molecule. And this is the root of methylation. And this is what is altered. If you have this gene mutation, then you will have a deficiency in the area that gene codes for. All right, so what is MTHFR gene mutation? You can't convert folate or folic acid to methylfolate, which is the usable form, and this results in many disease processes that we just listed above at the beginning of the video. It results in many disease processes and treatments that don't address the root cause, which is the lack of raw materials in the body to perform certain functions. This gene isn't performing these functions, but rather it codes for the enzyme in your body to perform these functions. So when you have an MTHFR, you don't pass on the code to change folate or folic acid to methylfolate, which is pretty darn important. So what is folic acid? So you might see on your packages where it says that it is enriched. Your products are enriched, right? So folic acid is one of the most prevalent nutrients in the human diet. It is sprayed onto the entire United States grain supply, which then becomes flour, bread, Pop-Tarts, cereals, pasta, rice. It's a synthetic chemical that isn't found naturally anywhere on the earth. And it doesn't occur naturally in nature, and the body doesn't make it. So why the heck are we putting it in our food products? But we are. It's not a natural vitamin. It's a synthetic substance. And those of you with an MTHFR gene mutation can do nothing with that product. And a lot of your enzymatic processes down the line are altered as a result of it. So when you see enriched or fortified, that means that it has been sprayed with folic acid and it does nothing for you. But what if 44% of the population cannot metabolize that into usable form, which is what we just said? Well, therein lies the problem. So there are many signs and symptoms of these gene mutations. For those with the MTHFR gene mutation, that often goes without proper treatment, and we simply prescribe a pill when all we need are the raw materials. So here are some of the signs and symptoms that you may recognize from an MTHFR gene mutation. And I have many of these. I have not been tested. I probably will get tested somewhere in my lifetime, but I have not been tested as of yet. I have found a source for the test. It's about $600. You probably can do it at your primary care physician too. I have no idea how much it will cost there, but there are options available for you to do the genetic testing. So here are some of the signs and symptoms of MTHFR gene mutation. Anxiety. Who doesn't have anxiety? But your anxiety probably will have had it all of your life. You cannot identify any triggers, like if you get on a crowded elevator, you don't get triggered by that. If you're claustrophobic, if you're afraid of heights and you go stand on a balcony, you don't necessarily get triggered by that. Anti-anxiety meds don't work. They just rather make you feel like a zombie. The root of this anxiety is found in the inability to break down catecholamines, epinephrine, ephedrine, etc. You actually lack the ability to code for the production of the products to break them down. They're COMT and MOA. And this is a downstream effect. It doesn't actually affect it itself, but it is a downstream effect through COMT and MOA. In these peoples, they don't need the stimulation of fear to have the sympathetic response. They're just always on edge, and they don't know why, and they've had it all their life, and medicines don't work, and they can't identify any triggers. If you identify with any of that, you may have MTHFR gene modification. Other issues are intestinal issues. You may think you have food allergies. You may eat corn, for instance, one day, and it's perfectly fine, and then you eat corn in 2 days and then you bloat up, or you have diarrhea, or it's just an opposite effect, and you think that you have a food allergy or a food sensitivity. Food allergies and food sensitivities are consistent. They are not random like that or inconsistent. They are consistent. So if your food allergies, and if you're wondering if you have a food allergy, if it doesn't do it every time you eat that product, it's probably not a food sensitivity or an allergy. Intermittent gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. What woman doesn't have that? But if you have it all the time and you have a problem, you may have an MTHFR gene mutation. Poor sleep patterns. If you lay down at night and put your head on that pillow and you are exhausted and you just know you're going to get in a good night's sleep, but then your mind wakes up, you may have an MTHFR gene mutation. It goes back to that inability to break down catecholamines. So even though you are bone tired, your brain wakes up and you just cannot go to sleep. Do you have ADD, ADHD, manic depressant, or bipolar? You may have an MTH gene mutation. And kids are a part of that 44% of the population, right? So they may have an MTHFR gene mutation and they haven't been tested for it, but we're giving them Ritalin and Lord knows what else. We're holding their foods. We're only feeding them certain foods. There are hordes of studies about the dietary restrictions of kids and behavioral disorders. So it is known that there are certain foods that work and don't work, and that you should give and you shouldn't give to kids with ADD, ADHD. And a lot of those are white flour, white sugar, white pasta, Pop-Tarts, cereals. That's because they have folate in them, more than likely. Now, I am no human biologist. I am not a physician. This is all information that I have discovered on my own that in my health journey. So, talk to your doctor or talk to your medical professional if any of this is really jiving with you. And I'm not your kid's doctor. I'm not your pediatrician. But when you put the pieces together, it is kind of easy to see the pieces of the puzzle are falling together. These kids are often inattentive, disruptive, have irritability, don't follow directions. They're not completing their assignments. It's a battle for you to get them ready in the morning and get them in the car and get them off to school. They may have the MTHFR gene mutation, and it can be passed from one parent or both parents. And if it is passed from both parents, they sure aren't methylating folic acid. And folic acid is used in lots and lots of functions in the body. Another symptom of MTHFR is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You don't drink alcohol. but you have fatty liver disease, and it's probably related to the sugars in your diet, but it's also related to MTHFR. So MTHFR occurs early in the methylation cycle too. So it causes other signs and symptoms down the pipeline. It's not necessarily that gene that is causing the problems. It doesn't come directly from that, but rather from the inability of this gene to supply raw materials to other genes further down the line. So there are many common elements that we chalk up to aging, environment, your spouse, your career, your kids, lack of sleep, et cetera, and they're all due to consequences of missing raw materials and nutrient deficiencies in the body as a result of these gene mutations. So you may be one or two simple nutrients away from being the most optimal version of yourself, and it is such a simple fix, and we just don't know about it. But whether you have the gene test or not, there are some simple supplements and some tweaks in your supplements that we can do that will help you without ever even getting the gene test. So if your methylation is broken, then you have a deficiency. And it's this deficiency that leads to those common ailments that we just discussed. And instead, we are often prescribed drugs when we're simply lacking the raw materials and nutrients. So before I get into what supplements you're going to take, I'm going to go ahead and go through the COMT gene mutation and the MTR gene mutation. And because there is a lot of overlapping and a lot of the very same nutrients that you will be taking will cover all of this. So I see myself a lot in the MTHFR and the COMT gene mutation. So thankfully, a lot of the supplements go for both. So COMT mutation is catechol-O-methyltransferase, and it is responsible for the downregulation of catecholamines. Again, there's that overlapping with the MTHFR. It is highly tied to estrogen dominance, poor sugar metabolism, and poor catecholamine regulation. Poor sugar metabolism, there's that fatty liver disease crossover. Also, those with COMT cannot take. Oh, this is just a side note. So we've just gone through COVID, and a lot of people are taking their quercetin for their zinc, and they're taking their elderberry to try to stay healthy. Those with a COMT gene mutation should not take quercetin and should not take elderberry. Those things will light you up. They will light your brain up, and you will be awake all night long. And if you have ever put those two together, or you've had those nights when you're sick and you were taking your elderberry, but you just couldn't get to sleep, it could be that you revved up your brain and you don't even know it. People with the COMT gene mutation should not drink green tea either. Green tea is a wonderful drug. It's got some great properties. It's not good for COMT gene mutation people. It contains quercetin, which I did not know that. Green tea contains quercetin. So don't be drinking green tea if you have a COMT mutation. So what are the signs and symptoms of a COMT mutation? Racing mind when you go to bed. You may be bone tired, but your mind turns on when your head hits the pillow and you start to think about the most innocuous things. So if you are slow at transferring methyl groups from catecholamines, then your mind stays awake. If you're an overthinker, if you are a worrier or a worst case scenario person, every knock at the door is somebody bad. It's the boogeyman. Are you a perfectionist? Do you have OCD? OCD and perfectionist kind of go hand in hand. You love organization. Your surroundings have to be organized. And when you lack organization in the mind, you have to create an organized environment. So I identify with that. When I was going through nursing school, and I had a test, my husband would come home and he would say, "You have a test, don't you?" And I would say, "Yes." And he would look around the house and the house would be perfectly clean. So when you have something that is pressing, you have to clean up your environment first before you can move on to that task. It's a part of that OCD perfectionist mindset. It didn't do me well. I had to pull all-nighters to study for my test, but I mean, I passed. It's fine. But there's so much, there's got to be an easier way than that. I didn't have to do that. I could have let that laundry sit, or I could have let that mop on the floor sit, but in my mind, I couldn't. I had to do it. COMT people, COMT mutation people are dependable. They're very reliable. You want these people on your school projects. You want them on your projects at work. They're going to make sure that things are organized and things get done in a timely manner. Another sign and symptom of a COMT mutation is estrogen dominance. You might go to Orange Theory 5 times a week. You might work out like crazy. You might run marathons. You might be all kinds of physically fit. But you have an estrogen band right below the belly button, the lower tummy that circles around the hips to the kidney. This is called the estrogen band. This is an accumulation of fluid that no matter how much diet and exercise you do, it doesn't go away. Estrogen binds the water in these interstitial spaces, and there's nothing you can do but correct the nutritional deficiencies, and then you will see that estrogen band disappear. I've had an estrogen band since I was 13 years old. I guess I've been estrogen dominant forever. So I'm going to find out if this helps at all. You are also, if you are a COMT gene mutation, you might be sensitive to textures, sounds, and lights, like the noise of big crowds, the flashing lights and loud music of a bar. You might not like to go out of bars. That might be why you're a homebody. You have an hyper acuity to these things. This is also, dare I say, some of the things that autistic people experience. They can't handle the big music, the big crowds and tactile things. That could be a part of their disease process. Maybe they have a COMT mutation, gene mutation. So the next gene mutation and the last one we're going to talk about is the MTR gene mutation. And this stands for methionine synthase gene mutation. It impairs the ability of the body to metabolize the amino acid homocysteine. And homocysteine rises because it's not being converted to methionine via methylation. It's not as common as in MTHFR, but it is common. So now you have this methionine deficiency. Homocysteine is a part of making methionine, and you're not making it. So you have this deficiency, which methionine is the starting block for every amino acid in the body. That's pretty important. Homocysteine is one of the most inflammatory compounds in the body. So it starts, homocysteine, hyperhomocystinemia starts to irritate the endothelial lining of the blood vessels. And because these are smooth muscles, they clamp down, resulting in idiopathic hypertension or hypertension of unknown origin. And then what happens? The doctor starts you on beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, diuretics, anything he can do, any high blood pressure medicine to get your blood pressure down. Because it's dangerous to have too high a blood pressure, right? So, you know, without really knowing the source of the reason for that high blood pressure, the source is nutrient deficiency in this particular instance. And it is a deficiency in pyridoxine or vitamin B6 and methylcobalamin, which is vitamin B12. Not all high blood pressure is a result of this, but if it is, we need to treat it appropriately. We need to find out if we are treating high blood pressure patients with all of these synthetic blood pressure medicines when really all they need are vitamin B6 and B12. This mutation also can cause some paresthesias and some brain fog. I can relate to the brain fog for sure. Okay, so here is what I'm going to do. And here is what I have discovered is an effective treatment for these gene mutations, okay? If you haven't done any genetic testing to identify your potential problem, you can still take the appropriate supplements because these are all water soluble. So you are not going to get too many of these in your system, okay? Whatever is left over, if it's too much, you're probably going to pee it out. So for the MTHFR gene mutation, you are missing the appropriate form of folate. And the appropriate form of folate for you is 5-MTHF, which stands for 5-methylene tetrahydrofolate. You can flip around on the back of your bottle. If it says folic acid, throw it in the trash. If it says 5-MTHF, then you're good. And you can also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a methylated multivitamin. And I'm more specifically wanting it to have this 5-MTHF in place of the folic acid or folate. And that's all you have to do for an MTHFR gene mutation. It's you cannot methylate folic acid or folate. The next gene mutation is the COMT, the catechol-O-methyltransferase. And there are a few substances here. First of all is the 5-MTHF, the 5-methylhydroxyfolate, which is your folate. The next is TMG, which stands for trimethylglycine. This helps you methylate better. Methylated B12 vitamins. If you see cyanocobalamin on the back of your bottle, throw it in the trash. It's useless. If you have a mutation that is passed on from one parent, then you can get by with methylcobalamin. If you have a mutation that's passed on by two parents and you're in the red, then you need either hydroxycobalamin or adenosylcobalamin. Now, if you don't have the gene mutation test, then go ahead and go for the hydroxycobalamin or the adenosylcobalamin. That'll cover it. You don't even have to worry about going and getting the others. Just make sure it's the hydroxy or the adenosyl. And like I said, if you see cyanocobalamin, trash it. For sleep, for those of you who just can't fall asleep at night, your head hits the pillow, your mind starts racing, of course, melatonin. Now, I don't have any dosages for this. I'm going to leave it to you to start looking that up yourself, okay? Melatonin for sleep also. So the three things for sleep are melatonin, magnesium, and L-theanine. So you know what melatonin does. You know what magnesium does. Magnesium is a muscle relaxant, so it's going to help you relax. I'm going to choose muscle citrate because this is the most bioavailable magnesium that there is. And L-theanine helps promote a relaxed state of mind. For the estrogen dominance, these will allow your body to get rid of the extra estrogens. You're going to use DIM, D-I-M. This encourages estrogen metabolism. You're going to use methionine. This is an amino acid. And you're going to use a methylated complex B vitamin, which is what we just talked about. That's the hydroxycobalamin and the adenosylcobalamin. Let's see what else. And that's it. That's it for all of those gene mutations and for all of the things that you're going to be purchasing to fix that with. Now, I hope this helps you. I am in the process of getting my hydrogen water machine and my counter distiller, water distiller, and I'm going to start using all of these methylated vitamins that we've talked about here. And I'm going to be a guinea pig, and I'm going to see if I can be the healthiest that I can possibly be. So I know that was sort of long, but sort of short too. I think, like I said, I am not a human biologist. I'm not a physician. I'm somebody who just needed to do some research for her own health. And so far, these are the things that I have come up with and that I'm going to try. And I hope this helps somebody out there. So if you have an MTHFR, COMT, or MTR gene mutation, then these are the drugs that will help you. And you don't even have to go get the genetic testing. If you want to go get the genetic testing, I would highly encourage it. There are some physicians out there who specialize in all of this and can unravel the mystery for you and give you some practical solutions as well as supplementations. And I might be seeking those out for my own personal health too. And if I do, I will certainly pass that information along to you as well. So in the meantime, I hope this helped. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want the water information, go to last week's video. And today's video was about the MTHFR COMT gene mutations. And if you're just joining, I'm ending it. So thank you for joining me. Just hit the replay and watch it over again. There's some pretty interesting stuff. So just once again, let me just go over these signs and symptoms. And if you recognize any of this, then you might want to do a little deep dive. Anxiety, depression, bipolar, impaired intestinal motility, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, poor sleep patterns, ADD, ADHD, idiopathic high blood pressure, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, paresthesias, brain fog, OCD. Are you a perfectionist? Are you an overthinker and a worrier? Are you estrogen dominant? Lupus, Hashimoto's, fibromyalgia, and rheumatoid arthritis. That's a pretty significant and long list that's all contributory from the MTHFR, COMT, and MTR gene mutations. That's a lot. All right, y'all, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see y'all next Sunday. I have no clue what I'm going to be talking about next Sunday, but it'll be something interesting. Talk to you soon. Bye.